This is
Make it plain.
Make it plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
At Baker's Pharmacy, care is what's most convenient for you. Care is being here when you need us. We're open evenings and weekends. Care is helping you save more. Most insurance plans and discount cards are accepted at your local Baker's Pharmacy. Care is saving you time by managing your prescriptions online. You can request refills, check order status, and more. Care is convenience that works for everyone. Baker's, a world of care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply. For coverage, consult your health insurance company. Visit the pharmacy or our site for details.
Ladies and gentlemen, a longtime friend and activist, happy to have her here with us. She's got a new book out. We want to hear all about that. Rooted, the American Legacy of Land Theft and the Modern Movement for Black Land Ownership. We're going to get into that. We're also going to talk a bit about our new presidential nominee, the Vice President Kamala Harris. Bria Baker joins us once again on Make It Plain. Bria, how are you?
I am so great sitting here with you. Thank you so much for having me, Reverend Mark.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
It has been too long. Very proud of everything that you were doing. You are an important voice for our younger generation, young people. First of all, let's start there. I saw you posted about Kamala Harris. What are your thoughts about her becoming the presidential nominee?
Yeah, there are some still conflicted thoughts, but most overwhelmingly is happiness and excitement, particularly with Biden stepping down. It was what even establishment Democrats were calling for, but certainly what young people like myself were feeling was that this was such a close lesser of two evils scenario, and it was becoming too close to call where we didn't believe that he was going to be able to eke out the win. I have a lot more faith that Vice President Kamala Harris is going to be able to perform better in debates, is going to be able to represent a different vision and face for America. And I hope that her policy and platform match it, that without throwing her predecessor under the bus, she's able to speak to young people and the valid critiques that we have around her record around the criminal legal system and Palestine.
So what are some of those concerns? You mentioned the legal record. What specifically are we talking about?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the challenge with not just Vice President Kamala Harris, but any establishment Democrat is that they've put forward really bold claims that they often did not stick with and they flip-flopped on. And I think that is a challenge, that some of the more progressive stances that she did take on immigration, for example, leaning into her parents' immigration story, but then running point under President Biden on immigration on a crisis that was worsening, right? Or vowing to committing to monthly stimulus checks that never happened, things like that. But with the legal record, what really marred her first presidential campaign was her record on the criminal justice system, having been a prosecutor. And I know that her focus was to portray herself as a progressive prosecutor, and that's a language and term that gets put out a lot. But Bay Area activists, including the ACLU, the record stands that she had really prosecuted working class parents who had truant children, had opportunities to bring justice to those who were wrongfully incarcerated and who were victims of police brutality and did not choose those things. And so in the midst of 2020, of course, these were real deal breakers for many people. And I'd argue are still for some. I believe that since that time, she's been able to really atone and account for that, recognizing things that she maybe didn't have the foresight to see she was stepping into, but also really speaking into the elements of her record that she was a bit more ahead of the game on, and trying to put that into her record too. But I think that ultimately the Democratic Party is not really good at speaking to valid critiques. It's a lot of glossing over. And so I think that leaves people feeling unheard.
I just saw some information just this morning that on the truancy question, she actually did not lock up any parents.
No, yes, that is true. That is true. But her office was still going after the parents. And there are various parents who over the years have described very specific scenarios and interactions that they've had with people who were sent by that specific office. And I think that the zealousness to go after parents, even if in the end they didn't actually incarcerate them, still tied people up in court cases and fines and various other things that people had spoken to. And I think that, again, it's nowhere near as bad as other people. I'm much more willing to work with a Kamala Harris than I was to work with a Biden. She wasn't a segregationist. She was not the architect of some of these crime bills. So I don't think that she has as much blood on her hands as any of her predecessors.
Speaking of blood on her hands, you also mentioned Palestine.
Yeah.
So we'll get an opportunity now so we were all in Selma when she was the first person in administration to be emphatic about a ceasefire back in March. Now we'll get a chance to see what her policy may really be like, won't we?
Absolutely. And that's the thing that I'm excited about. I do lead with some of the concerns because I think that I'm speaking to thoughts that a lot of young voters, especially young people of color, are thinking about. But there still is an excitement for me. On the one hand, we've seen Vice President Kamala Harris reverse on positions, but that's always been when she's been serving someone else's administration. I'm really interested to see what Vice President Kamala Harris does as a presidential candidate with the backing of the party, right? I'm interested in seeing how she leverages this moment, who she chooses as a vice president. All of these things are going to be big signals of whether she's staying in line with what those who she served under have done, or whether she's willing to create a more direct and fresh vision for the country. I'm hoping that she does a little bit of a 180.
Do you think young people in your generation, and let me see, you are, I'm trying to remember, are you Gen Z?
I'm a zillennial. I'm right on the cusp, 1994. I'm one of the last few years of millennials, and I do still relate to a lot of the Gen Z experiences, yeah.
And I'm Gen Z too. Will this younger generation take your tech? Will they, do you think, support her? Will some of those things, because it was an onslaught in 2020 when she ran around her record as a prosecutor. And a lot of stuff that was circulating on the internet was not completely factual. There was but there was a lot that was there that just wasn't real. Do you think that younger generation of voters is going to be willing to support her, and particularly women? Because I wonder, Brea, whether when it comes down to it, it's a choice that's got to be made, because ultimately women have lost their bodily autonomy in this country.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, as a young woman, or as your peers, as they look at this, not too crazy about the prosecutor piece, got some other issues here, but we need a woman to prosecute, and she was a prosecutor, so let's use it for what is good for it, to prosecute this other clown and try to win back some of our bodily autonomy. How do you think people are really going to fall on that?
Yeah, I do think there's interest, and for all of the reasons that you just said, I think that Kamala Harris represents everything that the Trump administration is seeking to destroy and eliminate and further marginalize. She's a Black woman, she's a South Asian woman, and she's married to a Jew. I think there's a lot of things that she represents. She's an independent woman, right? But I do think that people want to see her come with the vigor that proves she's willing to come with the policy. I think there's a lot of people who say, listen, we've had presidents, and even presidents, senators, Congress people who have been talking about codifying Roe for decades, and it didn't happen. And so we need someone to come in and commit to doing things that they're going to do. And I know that she has the youth and the energy to be able to galvanize. Again, she's going to perform much better at debates. I think her messaging is going to be tighter. And I think the larger frustration that people had is, I'm tired of having to choose between old white men to run the country. And she presents an alternative to that, right? But those are all very symbolic, identity politic in a more surface level route. And what really needs to happen for her to win the younger vote is for her to show that young energy is being matched by a sense of urgency. People want to see her walk back some of the things that she said around immigration, right? Just a few years ago, Kamala Harris was getting on press conferences and saying, don't come. And I think people want to see her say something very different, to see her break down walls, build longer tables, and commit to doing things, even if she doesn't get Congress, even without the Supreme Court. She's not going to have a lot at her disposal. And how is she going to navigate what is being set up as this glass cliff? She has to have a plan in place. And I hope that she chooses the right VP that doesn't eclipse her, but that can really support her in having a clear plan to put forward, because Project 2025 is clear.
Yeah, it's scary. But last, I think you raised a good point, because it's really not even just about her. Young people, we have to vote up and down the ballot.
Absolutely.
If the Democrats can win back Congress, if they can get at least one other seat in the Senate, then we can codify Roe.
Absolutely.
That's not complicated at all. Literally, it can happen.
And that's what most excited me about President Biden stepping down. Even though I think some people thought it was too late in the game, for me, I think the polls were showing, what I'm hearing, ear hustling in my community is showing that the performance at the top of the ticket was going to affect the down ballot in negative ways. That's the reason that Democratic establishment really stepped in as well. And so I think now we have new chance for state and local level races, for ballot initiatives, for people to remember that there is a lot at stake and on the ticket. And hopefully the top inspires the bottom, right? And it becomes something that fuels one another in this ecosystem, as opposed to it being, we're like, please come out, even if you don't love, like, that's not the way that we want to bring people out. We need people willing to wait in line for 8 hours again, the way that they had to in 2020 to flip Georgia Senate. And I was here and a part of that. And that energy is not something that we've had. And in the last 24 hours, I felt an energy that we haven't seen. So we're bringing back hope to these local and state races.
Young white women going to vote for a Black woman?
I pray so. I pray so. And that's what people need to be concerned about. People are like, what are Black people going to do? What are Black men going to do? What are the 53% of white women going to do? And I want to see, and I thought I saw some tweets the other day, let's see what intersectionality really looks like. How committed folks are to the first woman president if she's not a white woman. So I think that's an important thing that we'll have to look for. But what I'm seeing on social media is an energy, and I've seen people really coming together from all backgrounds. So I hope that it's sustained.
You know, you and I were involved in the Women's March. We saw what happened. I think white women now regret what they did in 2016. I would like to think they would not make that mistake again. And see, back then, nobody believed us when we said they're going to get rid of Roe, y'all. Nobody believed.
Yeah, thought it was fear mongering.
Yeah, but now we were just chicken little skies falling. But now they said, wait a minute, this is real. And then Project 2025 is even realer.
Right.
I'll tell you, I went on the record over a week ago when she was being discussed, Bria, and I said out loud, and now Whitmer's decided she don't want to be on a ticket, but I had said it ought to be Harris Whitmer for that reason.
I agree.
Mark can't have two women. I said, no. We need something, a defibrillator, something to really just wake folk up, and especially white women. Let y'all know, call for the question. This is on y'all. You know, a lot of times it happens and they blame the Black electorate.
Yeah, always. No, y'all didn't wait in line. Y'all love sneakers too much. All this other stuff. Come on.
And I'm still not off of that. If there's a woman that can interject, because that's really what it's about. And it finds women are going to decide this election.
Absolutely.
Period. Black women, that's just a fact. So that's not in my opinion. That's what the numbers show. People say we don't need. Listen,
I'm with you, Mark. I'm with you. I would love a Harris Whitmer or a Harris Warren situation. Elizabeth Warren had a very clear, detailed plan and had a team of Black women working with her and organized. And I think that would be something that complements Vice President Harris, because right now she has the visibility, she has the infrastructure, but she's not really associated with a strong platform of her own. And if she doesn't have one in the cut waiting, Elizabeth Warren does. And I think that especially because Donald Trump just pulled what I'm calling a stunt. I don't know if you can call it that, but what I'm calling a stunt, I think it's important that we bring in a woman who is strong and who has survived things of her own. And I think Gretchen Whitmer is able to really bring that energy so that Trump can't pull this, like, I'm the only one who survived a traumatic instance moment.
You're right about it. No, I totally agree, stunt. And that's a diplomatic way of saying it. Lord have mercy. No, people run away. I was in the airport when this happened. People like, I don't believe this. And no, nobody does. Even white folk. But no, I think this is important. I will say this. She made her first appearance with some of the NCAA student athletes. And I was carefully watching the young women in the crowd, even young white women. And it was like they literally were going to pass out when she walked in the podium. Because as a young person, like, wait a minute, I'm actually might be standing next to the president of the United States. And everybody was trying to, because you can't touch her. Everybody was trying to protect themselves from putting their hands on her, but everybody looked like they were about to bust.
Yeah.
And I think it's fresh. The young people need to see it. No disrespect to Joe Biden. He did what he could. He served the role, but we need some of this energy.
Absolutely.
And it's exciting. And what Black women did, raising all the money they did in one night, $44,000 I didn't even know they made Zoom for 44,000.
And the COO of Zoom said, we'll make sure it happens.
That's right. So
Yeah.
no, this is an exciting, and we need it. And nobody's talking about the stunt anymore. Have you noticed that? It's not.
I did,
in
and I
news.
knew people were saying, "Oh, it's too late in the game, and how is she gonna?" And I'm like, "This is going to dominate the news cycle the moment it's announced, and we still have a month before the national convention. So this is going to be the talk of the town. Who is she going to choose? What is her platform going to be? Anytime she appears somewhere, AKAs are never going to stop talking about how the first and finest woman president was the first and finest sorority. And you know what I'm saying? There's going to be momentum that will carry us through into early fall. And it's about whether her the VP pick can make or break the momentum. If it's not the right VP, if it's too conservative, trying to appeal to, I think it could just really mess things up. And I hope that she continues to catalyze off of the momentum, because I know that Black women are going to keep showing up, keep organizing, keep fundraising.
Yeah, and we're gonna get these brothers together. We got to get ourselves together. There's a lot of social media trying to divide Black women and Black men. That's been going on since before this,
Right.
probably since Clubhouse got going.
Oh my gosh.
That
was one of the worst things that ever happened to the Black community.
Yeah. But folks, I think the meme that sometimes it just takes one meme to do it all.
Yeah.
See, and the one that's gone viral is either AKA or KK.
Yes.
If you put that out there, all bets off. I think people that's as simply as you can put it.
Yeah.
But no, that's great, Brand, and thanks for sharing your thoughts on that.
At Baker's Pharmacy, care is what's most convenient for you. Care is being here when you need us. We're open evenings and weekends. Care is helping you save more. Most insurance plans and discount cards are accepted at your local Baker's Pharmacy. Care is saving you time by managing your prescriptions online. You can request refills, check order status, and more. Care is convenience that works for everyone. Baker's, a world of care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply. For coverage, consult your health insurance company. Visit the pharmacy or our site for details.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
We want to talk about your book, Rooted: The American Legacy of Land Theft and the Modern Movement for Black Land Ownership. So tell us about this. And this relates to you and your family's experience too, correct?
Yes, absolutely. My family has owned land in North Carolina since just about a decade after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. And I didn't always know that history, but I knew that my grandfather loved the land. I knew that my grandmother loved the land. And I knew that they had taught their children and their grandchildren and their great-grands to do it. And so I wanted to write this book as a testimony to them. My grandfather passed away recently in 2019. And on his deathbed, the last words he said were, "Don't sell the land." And I know that I'm not the only young Black person who is in this conversation around legacy and reparations and what it means to be stewards of the fights that our grandparents and elders and ancestors first initiated. So that's what this book is. It's an offering and a testimony to Black elders and farmers and landowners who never gave up on our right, our birthright in this country. And honestly, having a conversation like this in an election year is it feels so full circle, because we just had Juneteenth pass, where we're talking about a Black woman potentially becoming the next president of the United States. And all of this is tied to our political and economic power, which land has been such a vehicle for.
So you all still own this land?
Some of it, yes. A lot of it has been taken away. I think at the height of the farm, my family owned 600 acres of land in like the early 1900s. We now have about 100 acres or so, split amongst many different heirs, which still is monumental and means so much to us. But it goes to show that for all of the post-racial talk that some like to put out and espouse, my family had more equity and more assets in our control 100 years ago than we do now.
And you say some of that land was taken away.
Absolutely, yeah.
How
Specifically within my family, a lot of it was predatory property taxes, discrimination with USDA, and things of that nature. I know many other families, one of the biggest vehicles has been eminent domain. That hasn't been how we lost land, but that has been how many other Black families have. And then on my mother's side of the family, we used to have land in Kentucky that we don't have not even an inch of anymore, that we were violently pushed off of through just white supremacist violence. And I know that a lot of families, like people think that it's only the Tulsas, but there's a lot of that happens, and it's how these sundown towns get created.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is not just your family. We know other families who've had land, who've lost land. I imagine if we put it all together and did the math, there are probably thousands upon thousands of acres that were
Oh, yeah.
fully taken from us, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. Depending on which time in history you want to talk about, adjusted for inflation, but billions of dollars worth of property has been taken. And again, sometimes it's massacres like what happened in Wilmington, North Carolina, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. Sometimes it's eminent domain that says, hey, we're going to take an entire middle class neighborhood in Detroit and put a highway through it. We're gonna make a Lake Lanier on what was a Black town. We're gonna put a park, Central Park, on what was formerly Seneca Village. All of these are instances of Black land theft. And so there's so many families that are now working class and renting that should have had inheritances, should have been heirs to businesses and land holdings and trust funds, and never were.
You write that between 1910 and 1997, we lost about 90% of our farmland,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Less than 1% of farmland now is owned by Black Americans. So when you see a Black person who owns rural land in America, they are a unicorn. They are a miracle walking, and their ancestors are incredibly resilient, because it would not have been possible without an intergenerational labor of love. There was so much systematic violence being weaponized against Black families and Black landowners. So to come out of that with anything is truly a miracle.
Your land, I love this, is known as Baker's Acres, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So what are y'all doing with it now? What's happening there on the land?
So my grandparents retired and passed away on that land. Their home is a home that my aunt and cousins still live in. It's a home that we return to for holidays, repasts, everything. I got married on that land. My younger cousin Brianna got married on that land as well, and I hope it is home to many fish fries and family reunions to come. It's large enough for us to put other homes on it. So we talk long and hard about having family compounds and putting vacation homes on it. But more than anything, we just want to keep it in the family. No matter whether we grow food on it, whether we only live on it, whether we lease it out and are able to use the profit from it, it just matters that it stays with us. But I feel so much sentimental feelings about the land, because whenever we visit, for example, we just came back from celebrating Thanksgiving there last year, for example, and my aunt grows so many vegetables and fruits on the land. So when we come in, she's got batches of hot sauce made with peppers that she grows. We bring eggs from the chickens that we have here in Georgia, and it has become this true communal space for us just to be. And I think that matters so much, that more than the dollar amount that the land is worth, that Black people in a world that wants us to be stressed out, drinking bad water, like in Flint, Michigan and Newark, New Jersey, breathing bad air, the soil is stripped. Like, we have a piece of land that nourishes us, that the kids can run around and be as loud as they want to be. No one's telling them to shush. No one's telling them they're laughing too loud. None of that. And I think that matters, that we are providing generational spaces of leisure and joy and peace to our Black family. And that is something that I think is a legacy that I want to keep alive for decades and decades to come.
Are you looking to unify and organize with other families who have land?
Absolutely. I think part of that is I want to unionize and organize with families, even Black families that don't have land. I think there's a big conversation about reckoning and reparations that's happening, not just here in America, but around the world. You've got nations across the Caribbean and West Indies that are withdrawing from the Commonwealth, right? You have nations on the African continent that are demanding their relics and their jewels and their crowns back from British museums. And I think that we need to be coming together as Black Americans to demand some sort of repair. Whether you're a family that still has some land or that doesn't, there is a birthright that we have all been denied. and we should come together for it. What happened when Kavon Ward of Where's My Land helped secure the Bruce's Beach family their land back in California? There can be more waves of eminent domain reversals and land reclamation. And I'm really excited for that. And I don't want us to talk about 40 acres and a mule as a thing of the past anymore. I want us to really talk about reparations as this undeniable must happen policy that will happen in our lifetime.
And so obviously we wouldn't want, she was a co-sponsor of the Senate bill. We wouldn't want a President Kamala Harris to support reparations, wouldn't we?
Oh, absolutely. We absolutely would. Even though her roots are not specifically in chattel slavery in the US, she is a Jamaican American woman. She went to Howard University. She knows intimately what it means in this country for Black people to be robbed of their inheritances. And she knows what it means to come from an island that also is in their own fight, right? So I hope that she leans on those revolutionary roots within her family and pulls on the heritage of her sisterhood that she is part of as an HBCU grad, as an Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority member, as my soror, right? I hope that she is pushed to really fight for that. And I know it's going to be tough. I know that as the first one in, there's going to be the pressure to not be the first one out. But I also hope that we know that there is no space for tiptoeing around it. And when Trump gets in office, like he did in 2016, he doesn't he doesn't tiptoe. He's executive order after. And I hope that we come with some real auto when we get back to White House in November.
And that's the other thing too. We had the votes for HR 40.
Right.
We lifted up the name of Sheila Jackson Lee, everyone, a very close friend of mine. We had the votes, but the Democrats in 2022 didn't want to bring it because they were afraid it would hurt the midterm elections, even though the votes were there.
Yeah.
So again, folks, that's why voting up and down is important. If it's not just about her, that it can come through the legislation, it could come through executive order. And so these are all very important things. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. And the last thing that I was going to say, too, because I love that you brought up the down ballot, a lot of reparations campaigns do not need a president to sign off on.
Right.
The family in California that had their land returned to them, the Bruce's family, that was a local initiative. Because a lot of times, especially with eminent domain, your land is taken locally. The president doesn't take your land. It's your county, right? Or your city that takes your land. And so it's a mayor or a city council or a county executive or a board, it's board of trustees. It's those people who get to vote on returning and restoring land. And so I think that it's important to push for what we want, absolutely, to make sure that those of our federal officials understand that HR 40 is just the beginning. That's just to study reparations. So if we have Democrats who, with the votes, think that it's too controversial to study reparations, then we're never going to get to any implementation and execution. We've got to make sure that people understand the urgency that we feel, but also make sure that we know that that doesn't have to be all of the pressure on a president's back, because there can be very hyper-local initiatives that we support on a regular basis that can get us reparations back. I strongly believe in that.
Yeah, a lot of local movements, a lot of local initiatives, folks, and you don't have to wait on anybody. Sometimes right where we are, we can engage.
Yeah, be the change we want to see.
That's right, and make this happen. And so literally, when we say, Sankofa, go back and fetch it, we ought to apply that to land. Many of our families have lost land, and we need to go back and get it back.
Yes.
Rooted the American legacy of land theft and the modern movement for Black land ownership. So proud of our dear sister coming from this millennial generation and being about it, because we're not gonna win the movement on social media. Scroll Instagram. That's not gonna be it. We use that to inform people about what Bria's doing, about these movements that are taking place. That's what that's for. So please get involved. The book is available everywhere books are sold. I'm just proud of the fact that she had the discipline to sit down and write a book. But she used to live here in New York with her. That's probably how she got it done, because you can't write no book living in New York. I got to reckon with that myself. When you gonna get this book done? I'm living in New York. I got to get out of here.
And we need you too. Come on, especially in a moment like this. We need your Black media. We need your books. They banning books. We need your voice.
Yeah. I'm trying to get some folk after me. I'm trying to get myself together.
Yes, I'm ready to pre-order that. Just let me know.
Your summer is about to get a major upgrade. Get ready to power up your home with Wayfair's Black Friday in July. For 4 days only, July 26th through July 29th, you can get up to 80% off everything home. That's right. Save big on rugs, bedroom and living room updates, home decor, outdoor, and way more. From furniture to faucets, Wayfair has finds for every style and every home. But hurry, these deals won't last long. Need a new patio set to soak up the sun? You got it. How about a sofa that's just right for summer movie marathons? We got you covered. And guess what? We're throwing in free shipping site-wide. Plus, for 12 hours only, Score can't miss flash deals. Just when you thought summer couldn't get any better. Don't miss Wayfair's Black Friday in July. Only from July 26th through 29th. What are you waiting for? Head over to wayfair.com to start shopping our lowest prices of the summer.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Rooted, folks, once again, the American legacy of land theft and the modern movement for Black land ownership. I'm sure some of you under the sound of our voices, your folks had some land. And folks, stop selling your folks land too. I don't care how much money the white man offers you. Stop it.
It's a low ball. No matter what they offer, it's a low ball.
Stop it. Just hold on to it as long as you can until we can figure all this out together.
Yeah.
Check out Rooted, y'all, by Bria Baker. Bria,
Mark.
so glad to hear about Baker's Acres. I want to come see Baker's Acres. I know about my grandparents they just had a garden. Ain't nothing like fresh, homegrown vegetables, y'all. Lord have mercy.
Tell me about it.
I remember some of those tomatoes. No, I'm not tomatoes. I remember some of them. Oh, goodness. Potatoes and tomatoes.
Juicy. You just bite into it like that.
Nothing like it. And when the kids don't want no vegetables. When we got some of them vegetables, wait a minute.
Exactly. So land, it's how we eat. It's how we enjoy each other. It's all of that.
Amen. Love you, Bria. Keep up.
Love you much.
And tell everybody, folks, get this book and tell everybody about it. Read it. Get up and get involved. Thank you, Bria.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. As always, perform an act of kindness on behalf of an elder or young person. Write a letter to a sister or brother who just so happens to find her or himself incarcerated. Offer libations to the ancestors upon whose sturdy shoulders we all now stand. And above all, give thanks to the God of your understanding by whatever name you call her and him. All God asks of us is that we give each other love. Thanks for giving MIP love. And please remember to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.